Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I'd talk about a super important topic, something that is critical to your health, overall state of mind, etc., and that is sleep. So I've mentioned, some pretty critical things when you're trying to lose weight is around your eating, right? Tracking calories in, calories out, getting some kind of exercise, strength training, and I think the third thing really is sleep. That's not groundbreaking or anything. There's lots of studies on sleep and the effects that it has on your body and how good it is for you, how bad it is when you don't get it, etc. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about my journey around sleep. I think that a lot of my weight problems, some mood issues, and a lot of things like that can be tied back to the fact that I always deprioritized sleep pretty much my whole life. As a kid, my dad used to like to tell the story of, at 2 o'clock in the morning, he would wake up to, go to the bathroom or whatever, and he would see this glow under my door. And this is probably when I was 15, 16 years old. And I remember he would bust it a couple times. He would bust in there and be like, "What are you doing?" And I was always on my computer. That was the thing I did, was that I would, be coding something or on a bulletin board system or something. I'm dating myself a little bit there, but I really didn't sleep a whole lot. And I think that really continued into my early adulthood, even up to as of a year ago. Sleep was kind of one of those things that I knew I had to do, so I just kind of did it. But I never really worked on optimizing it. I really didn't understand the quality it has over your life. And I think that part of my problem is that I had undiagnosed sleep apnea for a really long time. So it's possible that psychologically I just didn't understand the good effects of sleep because I wasn't getting good sleep at all, even when I was sleeping. I suffered from chronic headaches a lot of my adult life. And I'm talking 2 to 3 headaches every day, like day in, day out. Wasn't dehydration, wasn't, maybe it was a little bit of diet, yeah, okay, but I always felt tired. And the interesting thing is too, I have a lot of family background of dementia and some Alzheimer's. And so, tell you a little story, like the way I found that I had sleep apnea was, number one, I remember my days at my former employee. We would share rooms when we would go to conferences, and one of my good friends, Mike, would say, "Hey man, I don't know if you know this, but you snore like a freight train." And I feel so bad because I would keep that guy up like all night. But anyway, but he would still want a room with me. Like, he was that good of a friend. And anyway, but my wife always told me too that I snored. But snoring is like, you don't really can put that together with any kind of problem, right? Like every guy I've been around, my dad, in-laws, things like that, my whole life have snored. And so I just thought that was like a normal thing. Well, anyway, I had these headaches, brain scans. They found a small cyst in my brain, but it looked like it maybe been there since childhood. All these things. I mean, I did tracers through the arteries in my brain to see if I had maybe an aneurysm or something like that. Clean as a whistle is what my doctor said. And it's funny, so I went to the dentist one time, and my wife mentioned to me, we go to the same dentist, and she said, "Hey, they got this billboard about this thing you can wear in your mouth for snoring." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So I asked him about it, and he's like, "Okay, well, first, before we do that, though, we're going to do a sleep test." I'm like, "Okay." So they sent me home with this little machine. I put it on my finger. There's a chest band, and it records it. The first one I had ripped off my finger, and I didn't get a good trace, so I had to do it again. The second one, though, I turned it in, and I got a call from my dentist the next day. He's like, "Yeah, you need to go to a sleep specialist immediately, dude. You stop breathing 70 times a minute, and your pulse ox got into the low 80s." And I'm like, 80%. I'm like, "Is that bad?" He's like, "Yeah, that's really bad." I was like, "Okay." So go to sleep study, get the CPAP. At this time I was heavier. I was in my 200-pound plus days, and so maybe that was attributing it to. And then I started thinking all these studies that have gone, dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things are problems of the brain. And when you have sleep apnea, you're starving your brain of oxygen. It's also very hard on your heart. So I can only guess that maybe, some of the dementia in my family and such might have been undiagnosed sleep apnea, like killing your brain for 40 plus, 50 plus years of oxygen every night when it's supposed to be recovering. Can't be good. So anyway, so I sleep with a sleep apnea machine, a CPAP, and I'm pretty religious. I sleep every night with it. That has definitely changed my life. I mean, I'm not going to say that it made me feel great during the day all the time and stuff, but I could definitely feel a difference between the two. And when I don't wear it versus when I do wear it, I can definitely tell the difference. So anyway, so apnea, that was the kind of the first blocker. But now I would say I'm into the second piece of tuning my sleep. And that is how to get, when I do sleep, how to get quality sleep when I sleep. And I think that's trickier to master, in my opinion. One of the problems that I have is that my brain runs, like it's always running, like always going, always thinking about things, always analyzing situations, learning how to do things better, figuring out mistakes. Like my brain, if you can't tell by the way I talk and the way I ramble and things like that, I have focus issues and my brain runs all the time. So spinning down at night can be difficult for me. So that's kind of problem number one. Problem number two is the devices that we have. We have our phones, we have tablets, we have TVs, we have all these things. Then we have our kids with their devices. I mean, you just got like light flying all over the place, and getting that time to kind of spin those things down can be really tricky, and it takes some discipline too. And then I think the third thing is like during the night. I have a couple dogs, I got 7 cats. Yes, I have 7 cats. I could do a whole episode on how that happened and what it's like to have 7 cats. Sometimes it's fun. This morning wasn't very fun because anyway, that's disgusting. But the point is there's a lot of disturbances in my sleep at night too. And so I get woke up a couple times a night, that kind of thing. And then, my whole life, I've never been, I've always heard about these people that have this circadian rhythm that is just so, their natural clock, right? I wake up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, 5 o'clock, maybe even in the morning, like clockwork. I don't need an alarm or anything like that. I've never been like that my whole life. What's interesting though is I am now. And I don't know why that is. Well, I've got some guesses as to why that is. But some of the things that I've been trying to do recently are, don't use a device within, when I want to fall asleep within 30 minutes. That's one. 2, limiting caffeine in the evening hours. I should probably even, limit it into the late afternoon hours, but I'm just not there yet. I enjoy the taste of drinks, and some of those drinks help me with my caloric deficit too, or limiting how much I eat. I have a very bad sweet tooth, so some of those diet sodas actually kind of satiate that for me. So it's a little trickier. I'm experimenting with maybe some drinks that don't have caffeine or have a little bit of calories but no caffeine, but they're sweet. I'm trying to kind of play with that because I will say if I cut out sweet drinks, I know for a fact through data that I eat more. And I don't just eat more, I eat more sweets. Added sugars goes up. My blood glucose is already something that I'm trying to lower, and I'll do the thing on blood tests and I'll show you how it has improved, but it's not where I want it to be yet, showing that I may be insulin resistant. Limiting those devices, limiting the amount of caffeine, and then going to bed around the same time every night. Trying to go to sleep in that 10:30, 11 window. And these are all just things that I've kind of picked up by listening to other people, like Andrew Huberman talks a lot. He's a neuro scientist, so he understands the brain and all these things. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford. He's a professor at Stanford, has his own lab. Super amazing guy. Go check him out. I mean, what I like about Andrew, not to make a tangent about Andrew, but he's very honest and seemingly honest. He's seemingly genuine. And he's got some really great advice, and he explains why his advices exist. And he also talks about what he does too. And he's also very scientific. I think I've talked about this before in his approach to researching and testing things. So I just find Andrew Huberman to be just a great positive influence on the community, like the science community, but also just sharing Stanford level quality for free on YouTube. That's insane. And that's some of the principles that he was talking about, was kind of going to bed around the same time, trying to limit light going into your eyes in a certain time before bed, limiting light in the middle of the night. I'll link the episode where he talks about it because I think it's a really good view. And then he talks about getting light in the morning. So like in the first hour or something like that, when you wake up, getting sunlight into your eyes. I'm vitamin D deficient. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'll get some more sunshine. That's cool. I mean, it's hot as heck out there. That's why my hair is a little funky, and I had to change shirts because I did my morning walk this morning. And I'm sweating pretty bad. It's going to be hot today. But what I'm starting to notice is, and then the next thing I would say is get something that can kind of track some of the quality. And this is where it gets tricky because, I wear this Aura ring. I also wear a Fitbit, Google Fit Watch or Google Watch, whatever it's called, Pixel Watch. So I have two data sources that I get sleep data from. There's even like this Sleep 8 bed thing that I've seen advertised, but it's pretty expensive. It's kind of out of my price range. Typical Texas summer. Had to change shirts again, and yeah, just sweating all day. But anyway, sleep quality is something else to look at too. And the thing about sleep quality is I'm not sure how exact of data that is or how clean the data is. But I think trends maybe can tell you more than single data points. For example, if you're using your Fitbit or whatever to track your sleep, and normally the Fitbit says you get an hour and a half of deep sleep, and then one night you only get 10 minutes of deep sleep. If you can look at that data and kind of figure out, oh yeah, my resting heart rate was higher or something like that, that might be an indicator. While hour and a half versus 10 minutes may not be correct, but it's definitely an offset. So something's changed, something's off. So those might be things that you can kind of use to look at your sleep quality. Total sleep time, I think that's important. But deep sleep and total sleep time are the two metrics that I really track from a data perspective. Because deep sleep, obviously that's an important thing, and it gets less and less as we age. We sleep less, deep sleep less as we age. At total sleep, we should be getting 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep. Those are just the two targets that I try to hit, is that 7 to 8 hours and an hour to an hour and a half of deep sleep. Those are kind of my rough targets that I try to hit as far as quality of sleep goes. The next thing I'll probably say is napping. Napping is one of those things that I was doing a lot of before I was on testosterone, because even though I was sleeping, pretty good, 6 to 7 hours a night, I found that I had to have a nap every afternoon. Like every afternoon I had to take a nap. And it was really annoying because you have to be careful with that because one, I don't know about you, but I tend to, when I nap, I can't nap for like 15 minutes. Like, I guess I can, but my body doesn't want to. I feel like my body wants to go to sleep for long periods of time. So a nap can turn into 1 to 2 hours for me. And that's not good because around 2 hours, I feel worse. 1 hour, I feel pretty good. But like what happened to me last night, I didn't get very good sleep. I think I got around 6 hours. It wasn't my time in bed. It was actually the fact that I had accidentally fell asleep. I just kind of relaxed myself a little too much. Yesterday was a rest day for me from the gym, so I was kind of trying to do some recovery work. I'd also done a lot of work in the heat that morning and a lot of walking, so I think I was just fatigued, so I passed out, and I think I fell asleep for about an hour and a half. That was around 2:00 p.m., and I had problems going to sleep last night. And for me, falling asleep isn't typically a problem, so I know that nap probably jacked me a bit. Napping is one of those things, if you have to do it, great, but try to keep it short and try not to. Because, there are some people that feel that napping disrupts that your circadian rhythm, right? So, and by not napping and being more tired when you go to sleep will increase the chances of you actually going to sleep and having a good quality sleep that night. So lots of school of thought there. For me, because I tend to nap too long, I try to avoid naps when I can and try to really drive through until bedtime. And I find that I can fall asleep earlier if I don't nap. All right, and so let's also talk about one other topic that I think is important because it's definitely something that plays into the whole sleep part as supplements. And so just to start off with, let's talk about a very popular supplement called melatonin. I've heard some people, actually it's pretty common to use melatonin. I personally tried melatonin. And I found that it helped me go to sleep, but I also woke up even more during the night. So melatonin is not a good fit for me. And I think that's important for people to think about. I think is, just because it's a normal thing or you hear about a lot of people doing it, etc., it may not be right for you. And so it's really important for you to kind of run your own test on yourself. You always work with your doctor, of course, and get their input, especially from a safety perspective, etc., for your health. But yeah, try it yourself, and if it doesn't work, then don't do it, right? Don't take it. So I don't take melatonin. So that's kind of getting to sleep. What about staying asleep? So that was one of the problems I did have. Even with the CPAP and everything else, I would wake up 5, 6 times a night. Now it's interesting, since I've been on TRT, I find that I don't do that as much. My sleep is a lot deeper. Now it also could be that I am taking in more calories. So when you're in a calorie deficit, that can affect your sleep. So if you're finding that you are waking up multiple times per night and you're in a calorie deficit, that's something to take into consideration. So it may just be a temporary thing, but let's say that even in a calorie surplus, i.e. you weren't tracking your calories and you were eating a lot and you gain weight, if you find yourself waking up several times per night, I would ask, like, how dark is it in the room? Do you have animals like me? Can you not have them in the room? Some studies, or not studies, but rumor I've also seen is like dogs in your room can help you sleep because it's kind of a primal thing, but I don't know if that's true. But my dogs are notorious, especially during the winter. They want to go outside several times per night. Sometimes my Malamute, Chewy, which I flash pictures up on, he just goes nuts and he wakes me up every 2 hours to go outside. I don't know why. I don't know. He likes to just annoy me, or there's something outside he's super interested in. I don't know. But that can sometimes happen. So, look at your surroundings while you're sleeping. Do you have devices going off? Do you have too much light in the room? Are there too many disruptions in your sleep pattern? Try to track some of that stuff and eliminate as much as you can. I can't just lock out all animals out of our room. We have like 9 animals in here, plus an axolotl. That's 10. We have a lot of things in our house that could wake you up. But I've noticed that, yeah, since it's either the test or it's the calorie increase. Since I don't have to be in a deficit so much since I've lost weight. It's either one of those things is helping. But another thing that I've been experimenting a little bit with is magnesium glycinate. Magnesium is something that I was showing a little bit deficient in my blood tests. And I would encourage you to kind of do that too, right? Don't take a supplement if just because more is good. Try to look at a marker in your blood and let that drive a decision to take a supplement. So I was a little deficient in magnesium, and magnesium has kind of a calming effect. So I take 2 capsules before bed. I don't remember the milligram. I'll look it up. But I take that before bed, and I seem to be sleeping pretty consistently. I mean, I usually wake up one time to go to the bathroom. I test that to being an old man now, but that's pretty good. Like, that's way better than it used to be. It used to be I would wake up, 4 or 5 times every night. So that's just another thing that I've kind of seen that works for me. But for you, it might be a bit different. It's all about just experimenting and understanding what works and what doesn't. Maybe keep a little journal or something, just to keep track of all these little mini experiments. But you got to find what works for you. I think that's really important too. We are constantly blasted with information that is supposedly good for us, but I think we should all know by now, like, not everybody is created the same. And so what works for some people will not work for everyone. And anybody that tries to push something that works for everyone, probably, it's one or two things. One, they are very devoted and they really want to help, and that's in a good spirit. Or 2, it's financially motivated, right? So I think in both cases, be skeptical, but be happy for people. If it's working for them, it's great. But you can also say, hey, that's great, but for me, I have different goals. So that's really with sleep. So just to recap really quick, getting a good night's sleep, try to do that is try to put things in place, put practices in place to ensure that to happen with the highest success chances as possible. What does that mean? What are the things? Try to go to bed and wake up at the same times every day. Try to keep caffeine intake as far away from bedtime as you can. Try to limit the amount of light and things that's blowing in your face, like especially closer to bedtime. Try to minimize the amount of disruptions you may have during your sleep, like animals, kids in the bed, that kind of thing. Try to keep your room, pretty dark so that light doesn't turn on. Try to silence your devices to filter that out. Try to track your sleep with some kind of metric so you can kind of fine tune it. Or, maybe don't do that. You can just do it by how you feel in the morning, keep a journal. That works too. I'm a data guy. I'm a scientist or a science guy. So I like a lot of metrics and things like that. And then when you get up in the morning, try to get some sunlight pretty early on, like within the first hour or two of waking up. I think that's really helped me too. Going on those morning walks now, I feel like that's kind of my practice, like that's how I bootstrap myself to get ready for the day, is by getting that morning light, getting a little bit of walking in. It just I feel like it does set a good starting point for my day. Harder than, I know when school's in for the kids and stuff like that, when I take them to school every day, and that can be challenging, to try to fit all that stuff in, but just do your best, don't stress out about it. You don't need another stressor in your life. But anyway, I think that's it for today. Hopefully I gave you some good tips on on why sleep is important. I think we all know that, but maybe some ways or some things to think about on how to improve your sleep. And, if you have any tips, share them with me in the comments. I'm always open to learn. I'm definitely not, this is an experiment for me too, trying to optimize all these little pieces of my life that I've taken advantage of my whole life, and not really paid a lot of attention to. So, if you have some tips for me, please leave them in the comments. If you have questions for me, please leave them in the comments. But other than that, keep up the great work. I know you can do it, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.